Jai Hind everyone. Myself Dr. Vanna Sharma from Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. The subject which I am teaching, subject is Engineering Physics and subject code is KAS 101T. The topic which I have started, topic is relativistic mechanics, and we have discussed about the frame of references in this topic. We have discussed about the universal frame of reference here, that is ether frame. After that we have discussed about Michelson and Morley experiment, the famous experiment which was performed by Michelson and Morley in order to prove the existence of ether frame. Then we have discussed about the results of Michelson and Morley experiment, and after that we have discussed about special theory of relativity, which is actually the base of relativistic mechanics. After that we have derived Lorentz transformation equations, which are actually responsible for the change in each and every parameter in relativistic mechanics. Means with the help of those 4 equations, which are your Lorentz equations, you can derive the expression for length contraction, means the length is affected by motion in relativistic mechanics. You can derive an expression that time is also affected by motion, means that is a concept of time dilation. After that we have derived relativistic velocity addition theorem, means if there are 2 inertial frames S and S dash, and if there is an object which is moving with respect to both the observers, then you can correlate the speed of one frame with the speed of another frame, and that can be done with the help of relativistic velocity addition theorem. After that, using that theorem, we have derived 2 special results. One is that maximum possible speed for any material particle is equal to speed of light, right? Means the speed of any material particle cannot be greater than c. Means if you are adding speed of light into speed of light, even then you will get speed of light. And one more result, that this relativistic addition theorem that follows second postulate of special theory of relativity, means speed of light is having same value in each and every inertial frame. So up to here we have discussed in our previous lectures. Now the topic for today's discussion, that topic is variation of mass with the velocity of a particle, or you can say relativistic mass formula. So today we are going to derive this famous relativistic mass formula, means that how the mass is affected by motion. In today's lecture we will try to find out that expression which will give the variation of mass with the velocity of a particle. So in order to derive that relationship, what we have done here, we have taken 2 inertial frames. This is your first frame, that is your frame number frame S, and this particular frame is at rest. This S frame, it is at rest, and there is another frame. So second frame is this S dash, and this particular frame, it is moving along x axis, means it is moving along positive direction of x axis with the constant uniform velocity. This frame is moving along this direction with velocity v, and this one is comparable to c. That is the main condition, because you know that relativistic mechanics is applicable only if this v is comparable to c. Means if the velocity of a particle is very high, if it is comparable to c, then you can describe its motion only with the help of relativistic mechanics. So you have this S dash frame and it is moving along x axis with this constant uniform velocity v, which is comparable to c, right? Now in order to derive this relativistic mass formula, we have taken 2 masses, 2 identical particles actually. So you have 2 identical particles here. This is your first particle, that is A, and the second identical particle is B. Means in frame S dash there are 2 identical particles. If the particles are identical, it means their mass when they are at rest, that mass will be same. So you can say that the rest mass of particle A is exactly equal to the rest mass of second particle, that is B, because both the particles are identical in nature. So that is the first condition here. We have taken this assumption here. S is at rest, S dash is moving with respect to S along positive direction of x axis with constant uniform velocity v, which is comparable to c. Now there are 2 identical particles, one is A and the second one is B, and these 2 particles, they are heading towards each other, right? they are moving toward each other and they are moving along a straight line. So now the situation is like this. You have two identical particles. Now they are moving towards each other in S dash frame, and they are moving with same speed. They are moving with constant speed along with respect to each other, and they are moving along a straight line, means they are heading towards each other. These two are identical in nature and their speed is same. They are moving along a straight line and they are moving in opposite direction, means this particle is moving along this direction, then the other one is moving along this direction. It means both the particles, they are having same momentum. So what will happen? When these particles, they will interact with each other, they are going to cancel the momentum of each other. So this is A, this one is B. First particle that is traveling with, if it is traveling with U with respect to O dash, then the second will move with minus U with respect to O dash, because they are moving with same velocity but they are moving in opposite direction. They are moving with same speed but they are moving in opposite direction. So if you are taking the speed for one particle as U, then obviously for the other particle it will be minus U. So what we have taken here, consider two frames of references S and S dash, where S dash is moving with constant velocity V along X direction, that I have already mentioned here. Now we are taking two exactly similar balls. So there are two similar particles here, A and B, each of mass m, moving in opposite direction along x-axis. So these two particles, they are heading towards each other with equal speed in frame S dash, means if the speed of one is u, then the other one is minus u. So after collision, they coalesce into one body, means they will stick together, and those two identical balls, they will become one. So what you have here, now you have these two, this one is your frame S, this is your S dash, and we are talking about two identical particles in frame S dash. Now these two, they are heading towards each other and they are having same speed with respect to this observer O dash, right? But they are moving in opposite direction. So when they will interact with each other, they will convert into one body. And these two particles, since they are identical, their speed is same, their momentum will be equal. So with respect to O dash, those two particles will come into rest. So for O dash, they are at rest, but for observer who is sitting in frame S, those two particles are still moving and they are moving along, they are moving with the speed of frame S dash. It means now these two particles which are at rest with respect to O dash, now they are moving with respect to O. So they are moving with respect to O with this velocity V. Clear? So what is this V? V is the velocity of these two particles with respect to O after their interaction with each other, after their collision with each other. Those two particles for O, they are moving with V, right? But for O dash, now they are at rest. Before the interaction, before collision, the speed of these two particles, that is A and B, one is moving with U, then the second one is moving with minus U. And after collision, those two particles with respect to S dash, they are at rest, means now they are not moving with respect to O dash. And with respect to S, after the collision, those two particles are moving with the velocity of frame S dash. But before the interaction between this A and B, before the collision between A and B, what will be the velocity, what will be the speed of particle A and B before collision with each other? If you know the first particle is moving with U with respect to S dash and S dash is moving with this constant uniform velocity, then what will be the speed of same particle with respect to an observer sitting in another frame? That you can write with the help of relativistic velocity addition theorem. So according to relativistic velocity addition theorem, you can write what is the value of, what is the speed of this particle with respect to O. You can also write the speed of second particle with respect to O. That you can do with the help of relativistic addition theorem. So according to relativistic addition theorem, according to that relativistic addition theorem, what will be U1? U1 is the speed of first particle with respect to observer sitting in frame S. If S dash, in S dash, the particle is traveling with U dash and S dash is traveling with this uniform velocity V, then U1 according to addition theorem will be U dash plus V. You have to consider that formula which you have derived in your last lecture. Then according to addition theorem, U1 will be U dash plus V, 1 plus U dash V upon C square. This is according to, relativistic addition theorem. So according to addition theorem, you know the speed of particle in S dash frame. You also know the speed of that S dash with respect to S. So if you want to write the speed of same particle with respect to that S frame, it will be equal to U dash plus V, 1 plus U dash V upon C square. Now you have second particle B, and that particle is traveling with minus U dash in frame S dash, and you also know that frame S dash is moving with this constant velocity. If you want to write the speed of that same particle with respect to observer sitting in frame S, then you can write with the help of addition theorem, and let that is represented by U2. Then U2 will be equal to minus U dash plus V, because now the particle is traveling with minus U dash. So minus U dash plus V, 1 minus U dash V upon C square. Same formula, but instead of U dash you have minus U dash here. So what is U1? U1 is the speed of A with respect to S. U2 is the speed of second particle with respect to S. And with respect to S dash, before the collision, U dash is the speed. Before the collision, minus U dash is the speed of second particle. And after the collision, both A and B, they are at rest with respect to S dash, but with respect to S, they will be moving with this constant velocity. I hope up to now it is clear. There are two identical particles in S dash. Those two identical particles, they are traveling with same speed. One is traveling with U dash, second one is also traveling with U dash, but they are traveling in opposite direction. So if for one you are taking speed as U dash, for the second it will be minus U dash. So these two, they are heading towards each other. Now when they will interact with each other, when they will collide with each other, they will stick with each other, they will become a single particle, and for S dash they will come into rest. But there is one more observer who is sitting in frame S, who is a stationary observer, and you have to derive, you have to express the mass of the particle with respect to that stationary observer. So you have to describe each and every parameter with respect to an observer sitting in that stationary frame. So what we have done, we have described the speed of A and B with respect to an observer sitting in rest frame, that is in S frame. So for particle A, U1 is the speed according to addition theorem, and for particle B, this U2 is the speed of particle before collision, and after collision you know that observer is sitting in frame S, and now that particle, those two particles A and B, after the interaction they will become a single particle, and with respect to observer sitting in frame S, they will travel with the same speed as the speed of S dash frame, means they will travel with this much speed with respect to frame S. Now using this U1 and U2, and after applying the law of conservation of momentum, because the momentum before the collision, that will be exactly equal to momentum after collision. So you will apply that law of conservation of momentum with respect to stationary observer, and using that concept you will derive a relationship for mass, a relationship between mass and velocity of a particle. So how we will derive that? So we will apply the law of conservation of momentum on the collision of these two particles. You know, in frame S dash, before the collision, one is traveling with U dash, another one is traveling with minus U dash, and after the interaction they will come into rest, means that is equal to 0. So momentum before collision for A and B, for the entire system, this is mu plus minus plus m into minus u, means mu minus mu, that is equal to, since after the collision with respect to s dash they will stick together, and that will be 2m into v, and this v is equal to 0. If you will solve it, then this will be equal to 0, means with respect to s dash these two particles they will come into rest after the interaction. Now we have to describe all these things with respect to the stationary observer. So as I have mentioned here, that with respect to observer who is sitting in frame S, for that observer u1 is u plus v, 1 plus uv upon c square. So the speed of A and B, that is for A it is u and for B it is taken as minus u. So this is u plus v upon 1 plus uv upon c square. And according to addition theorem, you have the similar formula, but instead of u, you have minus u here. So u2 is equal to minus u plus v, 1 minus uv upon c square. What is u? U is the speed of A with respect to s dash. What is minus u? That is the speed of second particle, but with respect to s dash, right? After this, applying the law of conservation of momentum on the collision of these two in frame S. So what is the momentum before collision? Since both the particles, they are traveling with, first one is traveling with u1 and the second one is traveling with u2. So for an observer who is sitting in frame S, the momentum for entire system, it will be m1 u1 plus m2 u2. And after the collision, since with respect to S frame, both A and B, they are traveling with same speed, that is speed of S dash frame. That is the reason you are writing here m1v plus m2v. Now what you have to do? You have to collect the terms containing m1 on left hand side and the terms containing m2 on right hand side. So m1, you will substitute the value of u1. What is u1? U plus v, 1 plus uv upon c square. Substitute the value of u2, which is minus u plus v, 1 minus uv upon c square. And this is m1 plus m2 into v. Now what you have to do? You have to collect the terms containing m1 on one side and the terms containing m2 on another side. So we are transferring this term to left hand side and this term to right hand side. So after the transfer of these terms, you are getting m1 u plus v upon 1 plus uv upon c square minus v, m2 v minus u plus v, 1 minus uv upon c square. Now further you have to simplify it. How you will simplify it? m1, take LCM, that will be your 1 plus uv upon c square, and in numerator you will get u plus v and minus v minus uv upon c square. So if you will carefully observe this term, then v will get cancelled with this one. So what you are getting here? You are getting m1 u minus uv upon c square upon 1 plus uv upon c square, right? This is your term on the left hand side. And what about right hand side? If you will solve the term on right hand side, what is the LCM? It is 1 minus uv upon c square. And if you will solve it, you will get here 1 minus uv upon c square, and sorry, this is not 1 minus uv upon c square, this is v minus u v square upon c square, and this term is also not correct. This is minus v, sorry, this is uv square, so this is uv square. So now you are getting v minus uv square upon v minus uv square upon c square plus u and minus v. If you will solve it, this v will get cancelled with this one. So on the right hand side you are getting m2 into the term is u minus uv square upon c square. So this is uv square upon c square. Sorry, I am not able to write here, so what I have to do here, just give me 1 minute. So this is your, sorry, this is your m2 and term is u minus uv square upon c square divided by 1 minus u dash, sorry, uv upon c square. Now you can see this m1 into this term equal to m2 this into this term. Numerator is same, that will get cancelled. So now you can see in the next slide, this after solving m1 into this term, v will get cancelled by this v will cancel by this, you are getting here u minus uv square upon c square. You are getting here u minus uv square upon c square. So this entire numerator will get cancelled by this one. And now you can get the ratio of m1 and m2 from here. Transfer this m2. So you on left hand side you are getting m1 upon m2 is equal to 1 plus uv upon c square divided by 1 minus uv upon c square. So you are reaching at equation number 4. So how you are reaching at equation number 4? We have started with law of conservation of momentum with respect to frame S. Then with respect to S, before the collision, the momentum of entire system is m1 u1 plus m2 u2. And after the collision, with respect to S, the momentum is m1v plus m2v. Now what you have to do? You have to collect the terms containing m1 on one side and the terms containing m2 on the other side. And after substituting the value of u1 and u2, which you have obtained using addition theorem, after collecting the terms of m1 and m2 on m1 on one side and m2 on another side, and after solving, you are getting the ratio of m1 and m2 is 1 plus uv upon c square upon 1 minus uv upon c square. Now just observe this equation carefully. If you will see this equation, then on the right hand side, what is this u? What is the significance of this u here? What is u? So as we have mentioned there, u, that is the speed of first particle with respect to S dash frame. And what is minus u here? That is the speed of second particle with respect to S dash. But we have to convert these parameters in terms of S frame, means you have to convert this u in terms of u1 and you have to convert this minus u in terms of u2, means you have to convert this term in terms of u1 and you have to convert this denominator in terms of u2. So in order to simplify that, what you will do? Now we are adopting this method. First we will take u1, then we will take the square of that. You know what is the value of u. Take the square of that, divide by c square, right? Take u1, take the square of that, then divide by c square, and then subtract this term u1 square upon c square from 1. After simplifying it, you will get the value of 1 plus uv upon c square. And if you want to get the value of this denominator, then what you will do? Then you will take u2, then you will take the square of that. After that, you will divide it by c square and then you will subtract it from 1. And after simplifying, you will get the value of 1 minus, you will get the value of this denominator. Means in order to get the numerator, you will simplify this 1 minus u1 square upon c square. In order to get the value of 1 minus uv upon c square, you will simplify this 1 minus u2 square upon c square. This is the method just to simplify these terms and to get the value of numerator in terms of u1 and u2 in terms of, denominator in terms of u2, right? So what I am doing here, I am solving only one term. And on the similar line, you can solve your second term and you will get the value of numerator and denominator. So I am solving only one term here. So how we will solve that? So you are taking u1 square, dividing it by c square and subtracting it from 1. So 1 minus 1 upon c square. And what is the value of u? U is your u plus v. Sorry, what is the value of u1? u1 is u plus v. 1 plus uv upon c square, right? Now simplify it. When you will simplify the denominator, this is square. So denominate, if you are taking LCM, 1 plus uv upon c square whole square, then you are getting here 1 plus uv upon c square whole square minus 1 upon c square u plus v whole square here. So you are following the same steps here. You are taking u1, then dividing by c square, then subtracting from 1. So 1 minus 1 upon c square, and you are substituting the value of u1. u1 is your u plus v, 1 plus uv upon c square. Now you are simplifying, you are reaching at this point 1 plus uv upon c square minus 1 upon c square. Now what you have to do? You have to simplify here. So a plus b whole square, this will be 1 plus u square v square upon c4 plus 2 uv upon c square. This is your first term. So this is your first term. Second one, minus 1 upon c square, and this is again a plus b whole square. So after simplifying, you are getting here, since minus sign is there, you are getting minus v square c square minus u square c square minus 2 uv upon c square. As you can see here, this term will get cancelled by this. Now there are 4 terms, as you can see there, and out of these 4 terms, now first I am collecting this one, I am collecting 1 and this term. So you have 1 minus v square upon c square, one term, and the remaining 2 terms, minus u square upon c square and this term, and again you can see u square upon c square is common here. So what I am taking minus u square upon c square common. So the remaining term is 1 minus v square upon c square divided by 1 plus uv upon c square. This is uv upon c square whole square. Now you can see here, in these 2 terms you have 1 minus v square upon c square common. So now what we are doing, we are taking 1 minus v square upon c square common. So after taking 1 minus v square upon c square common, you are getting 1 here, 1 minus u square upon c square, 1 plus uv upon c square. Now what you will do, change this term or transfer this 1 plus uv upon c square to left hand side, and transfer this 1 minus uv upon c square to right hand side. So after transferring these terms, you are getting 1 plus uv upon c square equal to 1 minus v square upon c square, 1 minus u square upon c square, 1 minus u1 square upon c square under root. So just simplifying, this is simple algebra. Using these simple terms, you are reaching at this position that you can have the value of 1 plus uv upon c square. So what was that m1 upon m2? m1 and upon m2, that was equal to 1 plus uv upon c square upon 1 minus uv upon c square. So what you have now? You have the value of 1 plus uv upon c square in terms of u1, right? Similarly, we have to find the value of this 1 minus uv upon c square. So what you will do, as I have mentioned here, that you will take square of u2, then you will divide it by c square, then you will subtract it from 1, and after simplifying you will get the value of this denominator. You will follow the similar type of steps. So I am showing those steps here, Similarly, 1 minus uv upon c square, adopting the similar steps, you have 1 plus uv upon c square equal to this. When you will solve this, you will get the value of 1 minus uv upon c square. So that value will be under root 1 minus v square into 1 minus u square upon c square, and in denominator there is only one change. Instead of u1, you will get u2. Means if you will compare these 2 terms, there is only one change. This numerator is same. You can adopt the same method, you can solve it. If you will solve it, numerator for both the terms, as you can see here, that will be equal. But the only change is, instead of u1, in the second term, you will get here u2. Now what you have to do? You have to substitute the value of this 1 plus uv upon c square, 1 minus uv upon c square in this m1 upon m2. So after substituting the value of 1 plus uv upon c square and the value of 1 minus uv upon c square from 5 and 6, you are getting that numerator will get cancelled because the numerator of both the terms is same. Denominators are different. In m1, in the first term, the denominator is having a term containing u1, and the second one, there is a term containing u2 in the denominator. So after solving, you are reaching at this position. So you have m1 upon m2 as under root 1 minus u2 square upon c square upon root 1 minus u1 square upon c square. Now the next point is, just cross multiply these terms. So after, when you will cross multiply these terms, what you will get here? You will get here, how you are getting this, let me explain. You are getting m1 root of 1 minus u1 square upon c square is equal to m2 root of 1 minus u2 square upon c square. Now observe this equation very carefully, because the answer of each and every question is there in this term. Now see what is your left hand side. In left hand side, this is the mass of first particle with respect to stationary observer, and if you will see this term, then what are the dimensions of this term? This term is dimensionless, right? Because this that is speed, that is also speed, so this is dimensionless. But the total term, the entire term is having dimensions of mass. If you will observe this right hand side, it is also having dimensions of mass. So this term that contains dimensions of mass, and the term on right hand side that also contains dimensions of mass. But the term on the left hand side, these terms belongs to first particle, that is A, and the terms on right hand side, these terms belongs to second particle B. Means you have two independent terms here. Both are equal according to this equations. These terms are equal, but these two terms are independent of each other. So if you have two independent terms and if both are equal to each other, then there is only one condition under which these two terms can be equal. These two terms, since they are independent of each other but they are equal, it means they should be equal to a common term, right? I hope you are getting my point. On the left hand side, you have a term which is having dimensions of mass, but these terms, they belongs to particle A. On the right hand side, you have terms which have dimensions of mass, and these terms belongs to particle B. So two independent terms which are having dimensions of mass, but those two terms are totally independent of each other. So they can be equal to each other according to this equation if they are equal to a common term. And you know, in A and B, the common term is their rest mass, because these two are identical particles. So since A and B are identical, so their rest mass, that rest mass is equal. It means you can write this first term as well as second term, both the terms are equal to a common term, that is m naught. So now you are reaching at this position here, that m1 into root 1 minus u1 square upon c square, that is equal to m naught, and it is also equal to m2 root of 1 minus u2 square upon c square. It means independently for first particle you can write m1 is m naught upon root 1 minus u1 square upon c square. Similarly, independently for second particle, you can write m2 is equal to m naught upon root 1 minus u2 square upon c square. So what is this? This is the relationship between mass and velocity of second particle. And what is this? This particular relationship is the relation between mass and velocity of the particle. So this is a relativistic mass formula for particle A, and this is relativistic mass formula for particle B. So you have equation number 8. So how you are getting, I have explained here. And similarly, you have this equation for second particle, right? So in general form, you can write that whenever a particle is traveling with this velocity, which is comparable to c, then the mass can be written as the rest mass of particle upon under root 1 minus v square upon c square. So this is your famous relativistic mass formula. So whenever you want to describe the variation of mass with the velocity of a particle, you can express that with the help of this formula. So this is your relativistic mass formula, right? Now there is very interesting conclusion from here. If v is very small with respect to c, right? If this is the case, then this factor is having very small value with respect to 1. It means this entire factor will give you 1. So m will be equal to m naught. It means when a particle is traveling with a very low speed, low with respect to speed of light, then the mass of particle is always equal to its rest mass. So that is the case of classical mechanics, right? So if V is very, very small with respect to c, then m is equal to m naught. And when V is equal to c, if you are saying that V is equal to c, m is equal to m naught upon under root 1 minus v square upon c square. If V is equal to c, then m will be equal to infinite. It means if a particle travels with speed of light, it would becomes infinite, which is impossible. Therefore, no particle can travel with velocity of light or greater than velocity of light, because if it will be greater than c, if V will be greater than c, it will be imaginary term, right? So that is not possible. So no particle can travel with a speed greater than speed of light. So that is about your relativistic mass formula. In the next lecture, we will solve few numericals based upon relativistic mass formula, and after that we will take our next topic. Thank you so much for today.